Right, hello boys and girls. Welcome to the third edition of the Gardner Tackle Podcast. And today I'm really happy to introduce my very good friend John Gard. We've known each other for, I think, 26 years, since we first met on the Thames. Fished a lot together, drank a lot together, and all that usual stuff. So, John Gard, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks for the invite.
So the theme for all of these really has been, it's sort of similar. So I like to ask about how people got started into fishing, and we kind of do it as a bit of a timeline kind of thing, you know. So how did it all start for yourself?
It's weird because none of my family went fishing, but it was from school. And most of the kids at school, they either went fishing or played football. So it was fishing for me. Always lived near the Thames at Richmond, so that's where it was. A couple of local ponds and the river, really. You know, just matchstick for a float, a few maggots, and away he went, you know.
Yeah.
Bleak, mainly little bleak, stuff with bleak when we were kids.
So you had like a little gang of yous that went then?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, some still fish to this day, so that's good.
Amazing, isn't it? I mean, pretty much how I started through my dad, really, but we fished for Cog Boys when we were lucky. Very lucky.
I thought I was nuts going fishing, but and that's how it really started. And then sort of one of my fishing mates, his uncle had a car. This was how long ago it was. He had a car, you know, a big old Zephyr or something. And he used to cram us all in it and take us up the Thames to places like, you know, you could dream of Penton Hook, Runnymede.
Yeah.
Yeah, blimey, it's like a million miles away.
Must have felt like the middle of a different world compared to...
world, you know. I remember seeing a guy get like a barbel about £5 and it sort of blew me away. I thought, what the hell?
So as soon as you got enough, I suppose, like all of us, a bit of money and all that, then you started buying some better gear and...
Yeah. Blimey, look at some of the old... I think we did have tank aerials, to start off with. That was unbelievable. Never had no money. There used to be a little tackle shop in Teddington, and looking back, it was quite horrible what we'd done to that old fella. Used to get on his stall and get the floats up in the sweet jars and then pinch what we could. For old Ted Charman, yeah, but great days.
Yeah, anything to get by though, wouldn't it really then, and get out there.
A cigarette tin full of maggots. They was called the Gentles back then.
Yeah.
Tuppence with a gent. Oh, God, blimey, it's a long time ago.
Unbelievable. So were you sort of getting to the Thames mostly walking there or biking there?
On a bike.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Little motorbike
or walk. No, little push bike. Motorbike. Sometimes it was a bike. Them days, I think we started off with a bike with no tyres on it to make enough noise. A cigarette card in the spokes. A peg. Yeah. Just make your own bikes up.
Yeah. I think the first one I got, my gran bought me it. It was a woman's bike, but I was over the moon with it because it just made
had a basket, see, for the ground.
Well, exactly. I remember little Richie Curtis. He only fished pen ponds, and he had one on the front, one on the back, and filled it with hemp. And it was that rubbish. You knew no one would nick it. And he'd just tie a rope to it, throw it in the bracken and that, and then he'd trace it back the following day.
Did Richard McDonald throw his bike? He used to hide his bike in the lake, didn't he?
He probably did, yeah. But so yeah, I suppose then, did you start to catch better fish fairly quickly, or did it take a bit of time to get amongst the better ones?
I think during the end of school holidays, someone introduced us to this rubber hemp. It was false hemp. It was a bit of just a bit of rubber, like latex. It was, but a white in the middle, and you'd use that with hemp, and it was unbelievable.
Really, on the float?
Yeah, on the float. Yeah, on the float, of course. Yeah. Places like Hill Island, Steps, and it was alive with roach, the river, full of roach. But looking back, we didn't see any big roach. But we weren't after big roach, we were just after bites, and you'd have a keep net full. And he had little keep nets then, but soon filled them up, I tell you.
So you must have been used to fishing the tide then from a really early stage. You know?
Yeah.
Because it took me by surprise. I came to London because the picture of the river was on the prospectus. So instantly I was attracted. It had courses I wanted to do, but it had the river on the front.
Yeah.
But it was pictured at Thistleworth, you know, down at my end. When I got there that day, I signed up and all the rest of it. I thought I've got to see the river, and I went round there. It was full tide, but it was a spring tide.
You went to college with false pretenses.
Oh, I did, yeah. It was massive though. I just couldn't believe how wide it was. But having said that, there was thousands of days topping back then. We've talked about this before, which have all now gone. But it put me off for 5 years until I rented that house next to
the
crane.
You'd be surprised how flowing water puts a lot of anglers off.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that. It was just the size of it.
Yes,
It was
it's
just
quite
like
big
a football
there.
pitch width. And I was like, I
Yeah.
got that completely right. I mean, I was used to fishing rivers the size of the Colne and things like that, you know. But it wasn't until I seen those fish in the garden, do you remember?
It's a man's
on
river.
the tide. It is a man's river. In fact, someone
takes-
texted me about it yesterday and, oh, we're doing really well up at, you know, Kingston stretches. And I said, get down on the man's, like, you know, that's much better.
Yeah, it's like a lake up there most of the year.
So when did you when did you catch your first carp out of there?
It all started in the marina, in the Mariners, which
In the Mariners,
you
right.
fished.
Yeah.
And I used to fish there because it was in biking, walking distance. But not for carp. I'd fish there for anything. And there's always been a bit of a grey area. We were never really supposed to fish there. It was only saved from being filled in because it was a series of pits there. They were all filled in apart from that one, because Surrey County Council had the bright idea of sort of of having a sailing club on it or canoeing place, so it saved it.
Right.
And thanks, big thanks to them. Luck. So we used to sneak in there. Had a fence around it, but it was full of holes, and we used to sneak in there and just fish for mainly for bream or tench. There used to be quite a lot of tench in it, and there was also crucians in there then.
Really?
Whether they were true ones, and I don't know, but and you'd see, like, in the summer, you'd see the odd carp. And of course, they weren't monster carp. I say they weren't monsters, they were.
They were then, like, yeah.
Considering compared to what we were catching, they were big. I was talking like 6-8 pounders. And nearly always common carp. Not loads of them. And I think I probably lost one or two, and I thought, so I'm going to have a go for these. So I went out and got the usual, I think it was a Bruce and Walker glass carp rod, a Mitchell 300, and up my line to about £8. Well, it's probably most of the line then looked £8 line anyway.
Yeah.
Old line. And I started reading everything I could about carp. They were sort of really getting to me now. I'd lost a couple, couldn't believe the power of them compared to anything else I'd caught. And it was always on the float. It was always on the float. Then one day I was fishing down there and I saw this monster carp come swimming by me. I'll never forget it. And it was a mirror, which was unusual. Probably one of the only mirrors I saw at the time. But this thing was like 3 times the size of anything else I'd seen. And that was it. It done it for me. There was no, maybe not done if I was going to work then or not. Probably not, I don't know. But it really sort of embedded itself in my brain, that fish. I could seen it a few times, same one. And eventually I went and caught it. It was unbelievable. I went from I think my biggest carp at the time out there was probably 8 or 9 pounds, maybe smaller than that. And I got this thing on float fish, luncheon meat, right under the rod tip when a snaggage swim, just like ones I like fishing now, on the float. And it was 21 pounds something. It was a huge fish.
Yeah, fantastic.
It was. I went on to catch it again, the same one. I had it on a floating, don't know what it was, a bit of cake or something we made up just to make a floating cake stuff. Yeah, it was a linear, and it was 21 pounds something. That was it. That was the start, mate.
Were those fish quite resident in there, do you think? I mean, I know, when I fished it.
Well, that one was in there for some time. I mean, it used to be controlled by the tide. The gates on there always leaked into the river. But they'd open on the high tides.
Yeah,
the
pressure,
flow would open them. So, for that particular fish, I saw it quite a bit. And I never saw anything bigger at the time. Started to see the odd other mirror. And then I'd catch the odd mirror. Started to get decent, a few double figure fish. I think I had a big bloated old horrible 15 pounder once. So that's really how it started. And then I really got the bug for it. You couldn't keep me away from them, But
brilliant place to live.
But it was a while before I got the heron buzzers and all that. Then I went on to fish in the parks, obviously. I went to the Royal Parks there and then. It was nearly all tench. And I love that, and then...
Was that around Barnhelm's time or before?
No, well before.
Right.
Well before.
Because, we'll come back to that because I know
that was
those
something else that was.
Those fully scales kind of ended up in
Yeah.
The famous Pen Ponds Fully Scales was down to you, weren't they?
Yeah.
Of course,
anyway,
it's all different now, so it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter no more, does it?
They're on a lot.
Yeah. No, fished the Royal Parks, yeah. Tench, mainly. And of course, I was on Pen Ponds. I'd fished Pen Ponds before for pike, mainly lure fishing from school. And we just kept loads of pike up there. In fact, one of my friends at the time had a 20-pounder, and it was an unbelievable size. I never caught anything nowhere near that, maybe 10 pound, but he caught a 20-pounder, and it was news all around the village. I went on there, and I was fishing like maggot feeders for perch. That was it. I went on there fishing for perch, and during the time I got quite a few perch. Nothing. I think I did get a 2 pound something one, about the best I had. I had a big eel out there, 3 pounds something, and I caught a tench. And I didn't think there was any. I didn't know there was any tench in Pen, because Pen Ponds was never an easy lake.
No.
And it used to get full of weed, and I caught this tench, and it was a big tench. It was 6 pound odd, and I thought, blimey. Then I found a dead tench, which was huge. Looked about, it's all bloated out. It's probably 8 pounds, something like that. And at the time, I don't know what the British record was for tench, but it might be 10 or 11 pound. It wasn't, a 6 pound tench was still a bloody big fish. So I thought, I'm going to get a load of logworms and try for these tench, and it was fantastic. I caught quite a few sevens. One morning I had a brace of sevens.
So when would have this been? Early 80s, sort of?
Yeah, early 80s. And of course I saw the carp in there. Not many, but that big carp became the royal fish. I saw that quite regular. Well, I wasn't really into carp then, really. So it'd have been before Thames Mariners, probably, yeah. Didn't have my carp head on then. I would have gone for it. But I hooked that royal fish. I used to see it often. Its tail sticking out the water swim. It was probably 30 pound then. There weren't many carp, but that was by far the biggest. And I hooked it one day on a worm. And it took me out into the lake, and me and my friend Richie, not the Richie, another Richie, I nearly landed it, funny enough. It got me well weeded up, and we had it on for about an hour, and it was in the weed, and I saw the fish, and it was definitely that fish, because it was years later that I told Joey Kavanagh about the fish, didn't I?
Yeah.
And he went and caught it. Anyway, I lost it. It weren't the end of the world. I wasn't fishing for carp. So when I got the carp bug, and got, obviously by that time I'd got a little car and stuff, got some wheels. I went out and bought some kit, heron buzzers and whatever they were. Optonics, the early Optonics it was. I used the heron buzzers at Richmond Park, but they were useless.
Yeah.
Went out and bought the kit, and really got into the carp fishing. 2 rods now, blimey. Made my own bait up, paste baits and trout pellet paste and all this shit like that. And eventually I joined a couple of lakes, Boyers Waters. And one was at Willow Pool at Colnbrook. And Stockley Road was the other one.
Yeah, which is a
beautiful little pit.
Yeah, that's a nature reserve, I think.
Is it all full of weed? So, yeah. And a bloke called Mike Oye used to run it originally. It was a lovely lake.
So did you go there from Mariners then before you started fishing for carp on the main river?
Yeah. I went to Boyers. Yeah, got the Boyers ticket. Went on the Boyers. And there was of course you went there, and there was proper carp anglers fishing. Some became quite well known. So I went on there, and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't really into the bivvying up scene. I'm still not now, actually, as you know. I'd get bored too quick, really, sitting behind rods, and but I did get a few fish out of there. There was I think 2 known 30-pounders in there, and a few 20-pounders, and I caught a few out there, but up to about 16, 17 pound, and then I used to like stalking them. There was a couple of little snaggy corners where I'd stalk them, and I managed to get one of the big ones. Yeah, I was with Phil Thompson.
Right.
I got to know Phil a little bit from that lake. He was putting a lot of time in there. John Buckley, a few. I don't know if Andy Little was on there. Might have been. There was a few, quite famous anglers, up and coming famous anglers on there, and Phil had been there all night, and I went to see him, had a little chat with him, and I saw some fish rolling in his typical right in a windy little snaggy corner where I'd had a couple on. I'd stalked them on floaters out there actually. And I said to Phil, if another fish comes up over there, it's right at the end of the other side of the lake, it's a bit of a walk. I said, I'm going to go around there. And sure enough, while I'm chatting to him, plop, one, that's it. And even then, I just took one rod, just put a few boilies in, boilies now, yeah. Green zing flavour, Jeff Kemp.
Jeff Kemp, yeah.
Yeah, well, you had to get that, didn't you? And a few down the edge, plunked a little ounce lead, whatever it was then. Just paid a bit of line out and sat there with the rod there and couldn't believe it. Half hour later, 30-pounder.
Yeah, brilliant, mate.
Phil came round and weighed it, so that's the biggest in the lake.
I'd forgotten about that story. But
yeah. I never did get a 20-pounder out there, but I got a 30-pounder.
Yeah, excellent. Good angling.
And then on Stockley Road, the same thing happened. That was a bit of a tough water, really. It's only a little lake, but it's full of weed. And I don't think I ever caught one on the bottom bait. I only had them on floaters. Andy Little was fishing there.
Right.
I had to go in for a fish, and he said, you got the ump about me going in. I actually caught a fish out there on a bit of a jam donut.
Right.
21. That was a 21-pounder. Yeah.
Yeah, good angling.
So yeah, that was great. I did like Stockley Road because it was I could walk around with some floater gear and catch a few like that.
So where from Stockley then? Where was it after that?
Well, so I got bored with gravel pits a little bit, and then Phil Thompson was having a little dabble on the Thames. Him and Jason Hayward.
Yep. Jay
fished like the Hampton stretch, I think, but Phil fished there as well. But he also fished on the tidal a bit, and by this time I was sniffing around the tidal because I thought, well, these fish coming into that marina and only come from one place, aren't they? They're coming out of there. It's a big bit of water, but this could be a real proper journey here. This could be really exciting, and it was.
And as it turned out,
God blimey, it was.
Yeah.
And no one was fishing it, really, apart from Phil having the odd dabble. There was another guy at Richmond who used to fish big lumps of cheese. Bill, his name was. And he'd had a few carp, but he used to just fish for anything. But he'd used really strong gear. So he landed, I'm sure he had an 18-pounder out. Good fish then. Good fish now, actually, at the river. But so I went on there and I'm on my bike and I'm looking. And I spent every spare moment I had on that river, not just fishing, but looking, trying to. Where'd you find them? I mean, the obvious places were like, the place they'd lie up, where there's cover, like old boat, we had the boats and permanently moored boats, stuff like that. And I soon I didn't say I soon worked it out. It wasn't soon. It took me a long time.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I still never really, you'd still never complete a jigsaw, even to this day.
It's the size of it that catches you, isn't it? That's what mentally sort of messes with you.
Yeah, well, my stretch was 3 miles, about 3 miles long, lock to lock. And I suppose on average it's about 60 or 70 yards wide. Some places well over 100 yards wide.
Yeah.
And it's not a uniform piece of water. It's there's like pools. If you drain that down, it's like a series of pools.
The runoffs. Amazing, isn't it?
There's
really
horrible, snaggy, horrible bits. There's tree stumps. There's all sorts in the dump cars. All sorts. Silty, yeah. It really is like a lot of it. Some of it's like a scrapyard on the bottom. So it was a real learning curve, but every day was different. And I just started using simple tactics. I haven't changed much now, really. Sweet corn, nuts and meat.
Bread.
No, not really bread. Well, no, not. I use bread now. Yeah. Peanuts sort of one.
Yeah, I remember.
They were such a good. They still are. I'm still using them now. Actually, they were a great bait. Still reasonably cheap. The fairly buoyant. You know, they sit on anything. There's no weed to worry about in the tidal Thames. Very, very little weed because of the salt. Oh mate, it was, when I look back, unbelievable. And I was doing nights as well then. Not all the time, but I'd do nights when I could, when the tide was, because you had to learn them tides. You know, so many people got caught out. And later on in the years, I saw some incidents down there, but anglers, you know, later, I say at the time there was no one else fishing it, but I've seen people years after get all their kit washed away.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think even Dave Ball lost a few bits down there when he was fishing it. But it was.
I mean, when I fished the fully tidal, it was slightly different because you could see it. So I'd only be able to fish that marina on a low.
Yeah, mine was different.
And then like all of a sudden, like it'd be lapping around your toes, like, oh, get out of it, you know, and you'd be gone.
Yeah, mine was different.
But,
the semis, it's locked in.
So you've got more time to, like you say, you've got to know when it's coming. And
yeah. And certain swims, that was the other thing you had to learn, was certain swims you could fish on really big tides. And a lot of them you couldn't. You'd be up to in water, you know. So, but there were, and that was all a bit learning curve. Yeah, it really was. You know, and catching the fish on the tide. I mean, they loved it on the tide. They'd come into the bushes. I mean, I've seen them eating blackberries. You know, they're coming they see them and they're on their sides like this, you know, and you think, blimey.
I mean, you got some of that, you know, the story of like getting snagged up and waiting for the water.
Yeah. That happened more than once. Yeah, we couldn't odds it really because some of the stretches of, you know, you had trees in the water downstream, whatever, and upstream, and these fish were so powerful. I mean, you get even a mid-double common, they were just like rockets.
Incredible fish, yeah.
But yeah, occasionally, I mean, I'd try and have waders or chesties on certain spots, but you couldn't odds it sometimes to get you around something, and you didn't want to break off on them. So if you didn't mind waiting a couple of hours till the tide went down. I'd walked in a few times and picked them up on dry land. I've picked I particularly remember the time it was a big good fish, 24 I think it was. He'd gone into this bush, and I knew it was still there. And when the tide, I waited for the tide went to go down, and just walked along the shoreline, and there it was, just sitting there, waiting for me to pick it. So I couldn't get a land in there because it was in the bush. So I just bent down and picked the thing up, and then this couple came along. And I said, "Gee, where'd you get that?" I said, "Yeah, we don't need a fishing rod here. It's South African. we don't need fishing rods here. We just tickle them, you know."
Good angling, brilliant angling.
But that happened more than once. Yeah.
I mean, it's the same down that end. You know yourself that where I caught all those good ones. You'd walk out with a bucket of hemp and stamp it into the gravel, and then wait for put your eggs on the ground, wait for the tide to come up.
Yeah,
and
bingo.
And the only reason you could fish there. Or the only time you could fish there was when it stopped, because you couldn't fish it on the up, but you could fish it on the drop because of that boat, that canoe slope on the inside. It would knock the flow out on the way back, so it was totally fishable. Whereas on the up, impossible. So you had that little, tiny sort of 3 or 4 hours maximum. But when I had that big common, it was only about 3 foot deep. And you rang me, didn't you? You goes, "You fishing?" And I said, "I've got a massive common. I literally just got it over the net."
I've had them when it's been, the water's gone down, and you think and you know your boat's only in 2 feet of water, and you think you've got no hope. I remember one day in the winter, and this day it was I think it was like -4 or something. I was crazy here, but no, they were there. Gin clear the water was in the winter, and I remember I had 2 rods out, and the rods were frozen to the rod pod, and I was just about to give up because I thought, no, it can't be nothing now. You know, I'd fished the tide up and down, which takes about 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours. And I was just about to start tidying up to go, and this great big orange towel flipped out of the water, right over my right hand rod. And I thought, right, it's going to go, you know. So I'm sitting there watching that right hand rod, watching. Suddenly it was a left hand one. The whole rod pod went over because it was frozen. The landing net was frozen to the floor. And it was a beautiful night. I remember, I'll never forget it. It was a 19-pound common. It was beautiful
brilliant
fish. Beautiful fish it was. Went back the next day, I had a 21, it was like lemon coloured 21 mirror. Again, -4, -5.
I don't know anyone who did so well as you did in the winter time. You really got it nailed. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, you was fishing. I mean, how long was you? So I met you in '98, didn't I? And I think '97 was when you had the Thames record, wasn't it? The year before.
'98.
I met you in '98. Yeah.
I think it was
100%.
I can't remember.
Yeah, because I was working in Richmond, and that's when I got permission to fish off that boat.
Yeah.
And I had that common at 31, didn't I? And then I was out there baiting up, and then I saw a landing net waving around. At first, I thought someone had picked my net up. Thinking, what's going on here, like, you know? And then I realised it was someone else, and that's when I met him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But because
I had that 37 pounder before that. Yeah.
97, the year before.
And that all kicked off because again I was still exploring the river. I was fishing. Shouldn't give too much away where it was. But anyway, I was on the opposite. I was on the Middlesex side of the river, and I'd been fishing. No, I wasn't fishing. I was looking. But I had been fishing that Middlesex side quite a bit, and I'd had quite a few fish. In fact, I found one spot that was, it was unbelievable. I got a lot of fish from it. But I was just looking around, and I was sitting on I used to smoke then, and I was sitting on the bank, just looking out of the river on the Twickenham side, and a guy came in with a rowing boat. He said hello, and he had a boat moored in the river, sort of out in the middle of the river. Quite a big boat, like 30, 40 foot thing. And we were chatting away, and he said, I said, I was just fishing the river a bit. And he said, I've seen some big fish swimming around my boat out there. Really? He said, yeah, well, recently the boat sunk. He said, something to do with the water. I think he sued the Port of London Authority. Something to do with them. Yeah.
Right.
I can't remember what happened. But the boat went down, had to be pumped out. Anyway, he said, I often see these big fish swimming around the boat. Really? No, can't be anything else but carp, can they? So I thought, right, I'm going to have a go here. So I went back there only a couple of days later, and I caught two 20-pounders. Well, actually, I say I caught two. My girlfriend at the time had one of them. I caught one 22-pound, and the next we had another take, and she just grabbed the rod, and that was they're both 20-pound commons. And I thought, well, this is all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what I didn't realise was on the bottom out there, it was a real junkyard. I hadn't snagged anything or nothing then, but it was only later on I was going to find out how bad it was. But the carp loved it, and they still love that area. I don't fish there no more. I should go back there. But the carp didn't want all that nice, clean, stony gravel and all that stuff. They don't like that. They want the silt and the rubbish. That's where the food is.
Yeah.
So I went back there. I planned to go with a mate who had a boat moored up downstream about a quarter of a mile, and I told him about the commons I had. I said, "Look, Bob, you got to come up there." Okay, he said, "We'll fish together. We're going to fish late." And so I got down there. You could park on that side of the river then. You can't park anywhere now. So I parked the car, wandered down there. I like to go past Bob on his boat. So I shouted out, you're going to come. And he was drinking, never forget, he was drinking a can of beer. It was nice and sort of cosy out there, his rod's out. And he couldn't be bothered, to come up, to walk down to me or get in his little dinghy, whatever. So I was on my own. Went down there, put a bit of bait out near this guy's boat. And it was still well early. And I thought, there's no rush in. There was a few canoeists about, and people, one bloke and his girlfriend going round and round in the spot, while drinking wine in the boat and all that. And so I plunked the rods out, and I thought, I won't get nothing yet, Well, it weren't long. It was only out there about, about half an hour or so, and off it went. So I picked the rod up and started playing it, and it snagged me. And I thought, oh, God. Yeah, so this fish snagged me, and so I left it there for about 10 minutes, had a cup of tea and that, and there was a knock on the rod, so I thought I'd lost it, but anyway, it was still there, so I picked the rod up, wound down into it, and the fish came to the surface, and it didn't do a lot else. It just come waddling in, or maybe it was just got tired out in the snag or so, I don't know, but there was hardly any fight in it, really. It just came in, waddling in, and when I saw it, I thought, well, plumb, that's a good fish. I just didn't realise just how big it was.
Yeah, it's interesting how it come out. It's hiding really, because I just got Tal's book, or I think it was around about that time it come out, wasn't it? It's around about then. And of course, then for those of you who don't know, John Gard Thames record is in Pursuit of the Largest in the guest chapters. But it was a Thames record, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had no idea what the record was or anything like that. But I'd gone from, I think my previous biggest out the river was, I think it was 25:14. So it was a big jump. I got it in the net anyway. I looked at it and I thought, blimey, that's a bit big across the shoulders. And I went to lift it. And I think, this is a 30-pounder, this, And the more I looked at it, I think it's like, what it's like. It's like a grow on, isn't it? And you think to yourself, oh, what have I got here?
Major treatment out of that river. And it still is. Especially out of the tidal,
Yeah. It's, big fish, 37 on the nose it was. On my scales anyway, I weighed about a few ounces. If it was out, it's out. But I've no idea it was any I didn't know what the record was, and I can't remember how I found out.
I think at that time, you
it might have been even Keith Arthur. Keith might have had something to do with it, telling me that what the record.
I know. Was it what's his name? Dickie Cadd. He'd had a good nadner years before. Was it John Cadd?
John Cadd. 31, I think that was. Yeah. I knew about that fish. But
Oxford, yeah.
I didn't have any idea. I didn't know anyone else who was carp fishing the Thames. So apart from Phil and having a dabble. It was a massive fish, mate. I couldn't believe it. I just immediately packed up and went down the pub. I'll never forget that. Oh, Bob came down. Some people were watching me, and I told him to go and get my friend Bob at the boat, and he came along in his dinghy, in his little little inflatable thing. And he said, I can't believe you've got one. Because I'd only been there an hour. He said, you have one already? And I said, have a look at this.
I bet his bloody eyes popped out of his head.
Yeah, he couldn't believe it. I said, that could have been yours if you'd have stayed fishing with me. Because we were going to fish together. That was the plan.
Amazing.
And that didn't happen,
So around about then, you would have been abroad years before that. That's one thing I wanted to ask you about.
Going fishing abroad, was I used to go to Ireland quite a bit, bream fishing and tench fishing. That was great, because we had a closed season then. So in Ireland didn't. So you went down there. I think you could fish in Cornwall and Devon, but Ireland was the place. Yeah, it was great.
So what made you go to Holland? I know I've
Carp.
seen some fantastic photos of
Carp. Yeah, we went to Carp. Again, Phil Thompson had a little bit to do with it. He'd been to Holland, and he gave me a few pointers. He had couple of Dutch mates. So I went over there. First of all, I went on a coach trip. That was pretty Mickey Mouse. It was bad time. It was cold. But I went back there. I really liked it and fished some of the canals. And we weren't going there for big fish. All our holidays, it was just a holiday. Like every fishing trip I've had abroad has been a holiday. And I don't just fish, I do other things. But we had some lovely fish in Holland, 20-pound commons, great times, yeah. Then I went to France a few times. Not really big fish hunting, not at all, really. I used to go bird watching a fair bit in south of France, and so a couple of trips it was like me going to the Camargue birding, and I'd have a go on a few of the canals around there. Had a few carp, wildies, and fished a few reservoirs, and did get a few small mirrors, and it's good. It was good. And where'd I go then? France. Did I go to Canada then? I went to Canada. Maybe that could have been early 90s. I'd heard a few rumours about Canada, big wild carp in the rivers and stuff like that, but I didn't know anyone who'd ever been there. So I was trying to didn't have the internet then or nothing like that. And who made me go really was, I've vaguely knew this guy, Nigel Botherway. I didn't really know him as a friend, nothing like that. But he was a friend of mine. Friends of mine knew him. And he was on a rugby tour in Canada. And he met some guy that took him out salmon fishing and carp fishing. And he caught fish to 31. And my ears pricked up. I thought, right, I'll have to get in touch. So I got in touch with Nigel through another mate who knew him. I met him in a pub in Twickenham. He gave me a few pointers, but he couldn't remember a lot of where he went because he was on a rugby tour. I went out and thought, sorry, I'm going to go. So I went with a girlfriend. We went out there flew to Toronto, and I thought I was just going to do just took a couple of rods. Then you could take what you liked on a plane. They didn't charge you much, And I didn't take any bait with me and everything like that, but had a look around the places Nigel mentioned, but I didn't really like them. So ended up fishing on a marina in Lake Ontario, which is the size of Wales. That's the biggest lake I've ever fished.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And I caught a few. I couldn't believe it. Just on corn. I had them up to the mid-20s. And I loved it. I did. I remember getting a 20-pound carp, and the bloke next to me caught a 20-pound salmon at the same place. He had it on the lure, yeah. So, had a bit of I'd done the usual tourist thing out there, went to see Niagara Falls and all that, and I thought, well, I want to come back here and do it properly, So I went the following year with a mate, and we done a lot of driving about looking, and we ended up on St. Lawrence. And it was unbelievable. It took us a while to catch any, but the first one I caught was 31 pound on the float.
Yeah, good angling.
Yeah. And that was the spot my mate said, it's a waste of time here. I said, I think we should give it a go here. On the float, I had 31, then I had 28. I said, we're going to stay. I said to the Pete, we're going to stay, are we? We went back the next day, and it just got better and better. And we end up having, I don't know. I don't know. That week, we only really fished for the second week because we've done a lot of driving about, but we might have had I don't know how many, we must have had 10 30 pounders. I think I had a 35, a lot of 20 pounders, and it was all simple, lovely. I was getting them the way I liked to on the float, And it started the ball run. I just couldn't keep away. I went there about 15 times probably, something like that.
But didn't you fish for beluga? Or sturgeon?
No, that was in British Columbia. That was the other side.
Right, okay.
Yeah, they're the white sturgeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go for them.
Caught a few good ones, didn't you?
Yeah, you have to go guided for them. You can't just go off the bank, start trying to catch sturgeon because they might tell you 2 miles down the river. I had 207 pounds, the biggest I had. But the salmon fishing was great.
I remember you sending me a picture, or I think I've still got it. And there was that many in it, I couldn't count them.
What, salmon?
Yeah, it was in some shallow pool.
That was this little tiny river. Yeah,
When
they were running, it was unbelievable. Yeah, I had a salmon fishing, was great. It was pulled your arm off, mate. It did, and I lost a real monster one day. Mind you, what happened was I hooked it, and I was actually hooked around someone else's tackle. And I played this thing for about an hour, and it was about 40 pound. It was big king salmon, yeah. And I realised I hadn't actually hooked the fish, and just by luck, it came off. Because once I saw what happened, I didn't want to land it. It was a big fish, but I had fished to upper 20s. I mean, they really did pull hard,
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I'd like to go back there actually.
You've only just come, but you did go to Canada quite recently.
I went a few weeks ago. Yeah, I went back to Ontario. I hadn't been there for number of years, but I went back there, and bit of a pilgrimage because I took a friend there, he ended up buying a house, and he hasn't been too well lately. He had a few problems, and I said, look, let's go back because we got a lot of Canadian friends. Let's go back and have a holiday. And the river it wasn't like it was. It was really, really low weed. Some of the bays I fished then were full of lilies, but I didn't fish every day. I went for 10 days. I probably only fished for about 5. Still got a few on the float up to mid-20s, Young lad came for us at a 28, I think. We had a great time.
Yeah, that's the most
important
thing.
It was really good, yeah.
I mean, in terms of...
I never ledgered once in the whole 10 days I was there.
Just float, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Still gin clear the water?
Yeah, most of it was... Yeah, it was gin clear. Yeah, I did lose a really big fish, actually. I wish I'd never seen it. That peed me off somewhat, yeah.
I mean, what's your most memorable foreign capture, would you say, out of all the species, though, not just carp?
Some of the salmon were brilliant. Some of the carp were as well, because it was the way I caught them. I had a 41-pound common on the float, 2 feet from the bank, and there was 3 northern guys fishing around the corner. They all using. No, they weren't using multiple rods because you only allowed 1 rod then.
Right. But
they'd been there for days and hadn't really caught much. But I did tell them they were in 2 foot of water. But I've sneaked in around the corner, and I had a 41. I just by luck. It was luck how big it was. I caught 41 something on a float fish peanut.
Right
In the edge. Couple of hours fishing.
It's up there, isn't it, mate? Totally. I mean,
yeah.
wild as they come. And
well, I lost a real monstrous fish there.
Is this a horse?
Yeah, one eyes like a horse. It could have been a 50-pounder. Yeah, that was on the float as well. But I was a bit undergunned with tackle.
That's why I remember you telling me that. I remember you saying like you almost didn't want to hook it, did you? Because you thought I'm going to be in for it if
I've never seen. It was the biggest fish biggest carp I ever saw in Canada. Yeah, I went down with it was quite a light. I don't know if it was a 1 3/4 pound rod. It was light gear, 10-pound line and a small reel, and I didn't think there was anything big in this little time. It was a little creek. I've seen a few fish in there, but I didn't think there was any big ones in it. And one of my Canadian friends came down and he went for it. We said, there's some big fish up there, John. I said, really? So I went and looked and I saw these fish. There was about 8 of them and they're all like 25-pound plus. And I didn't see this big fish originally. I didn't see it at first. So I'd put some bait in there and I'd gone back and it had all gone. Right in the edge. And I thought, they've had it. So I packed up fishing where I was, went there, put some corn in the edge, really close in. And what I'd done was because you couldn't really, I was on a bit of a high bank. So I actually laid the float on the bank, on the gravel. And I could just see the corn on the bottom there. And I was sitting there, and suddenly something came around. It's like a kink in the bank. Something came around the corner. I thought, what's that? And it's this fish has got bigger and bigger. It's like a bronzed airship it was. And he came around, I thought, I should wind in really, I think. I'm looking at my gear and looking at that fish. And it was almost like looking at me. Like great big eyes like a horse. It was looking at me and I thought, no. What do you do? I mean, I thought, I don't know, I've got 10-pound line on. There's always a chance.
Most of us would carry on.
Anyway, I didn't want to look at the fish. I just looked at that float on the gravel and it went tink, 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 tink down the gravel and off it went across the river. It was a creek. It wasn't very wide there, but it was all trees in the water the other side. It's gone in there and I thought, that's it, it's over. But he didn't. He came back out and swum right towards me, like Flipper it was. Came towards me. And then I thought, I don't know, I might have a chance here. Because I had quite a big net, but that was the only thing my favour really. Then the fish done the left to my right and went out and that was it, went to sea.
Stop going.
But I didn't lose all my line. It was the hook pulled out and I think I had 10-pound line on, but I'll never forget it.
It's a great story though, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, I'll never forget it. I still think of it today. I mean, I lost it, but you can't win them all, can you? And that one I weren't going to win. But I have had situations in the UK where I've been tench fishing with light tackle. Well, I've actually wound in. I've seen big carp on the maggots and stuff. It happened to the lake we're talking about. You had a 30-pound common out there one day. I had 3 big commons. But I had trees there, weed there, and I thought, I'm on a float rod. So what's the point? It's not fair, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not fair. It's not good angling. I don't want to.
In that situation, yeah.
I sat there and watched them ripping the bottom up for the maggots. I'm sure I would have hooked one. Big, done a 40-pound common, didn't it?
Yeah.
That one, where it is. So yeah, if I know I haven't got a chance, I would wind in every time.
Yeah, that's fair enough, mate. I think everyone would. I mean, any bucket list countries from a fishing point of view that you'd like to? I mean, for me, it's always been India. I think the Marcia are slightly coming back in certain places, but
I don't know about Marcia. I thought a lot of it finished because
a lot of it has because of damming and things like that. But I know a couple of guys have been out recent. A couple of good ones, yeah. But so that's something for me. But would that be?
Yeah, that would do it. I've been to India a couple of times, like birding holidays, and yeah, that would do it. I kicked myself really because I had a mate years ago that when Paul Boot wrote he was writing angling.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Before he wrote the book, he was doing articles in angling magazine. He was fishing the Ganges with his girlfriend, and it just blew you away reading that. And I had a friend of mine, Terry, who said to me, "Do you fancy coming out there, John?" And I said, "Yeah, I could do." And he went, "No, I'll organise it all." So in the end, I don't know why I didn't go. He went with another mate, but they wanted a third person to keep the cost down, stuff like that. And I kicked myself now, I should have gone. But they went to the place called the Junction Pool on the Ganges, famous. And they just hired out some local people to keep their eye on they tied goats up either end of the camps, keep the leopards away and all this. Scary stuff it was, yeah. You know, tied goats up with bells round. There's like alarm bells. Leopards were common there. And that one leopard, he said, on the road where they were fishing, was snatching people off top of buses.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, from an overhanging rock. It's like, because they're like, some of them turn man-eater, like tigers do. You know, they can.
Yeah, yeah.
But they had fish to over 50 pounds on lures and all that. Right, good angling. Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be up there, John.
Yeah, that I should have gone. I should have gone on that trip. He also went on to fish like for Nile perch, stuff like that. That, don't know. I didn't do the same for the Marcia would do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
So do you think so far then Canada's probably your favourite country that you have fished in?
Yeah, because I mean the carp were wild. There's no fingerprints on these. Are truly wild bred fish, you know. You know, and they were beautiful fish and big fish, you know.
I mean, one of the reasons we've always gotten is that we fish for other things and we appreciate all fishing, don't we?
Yeah.
So we can't really not talk about the perch because 20 years ago, that's when it all started, wasn't it?
Well, I
really?
never caught a big perch, really. Well, I had them up to over £2 I had them from Ireland and Richmond Park. I had a couple of twos. And that really all started. It wasn't some great big pioneering thing with me. I mean, I knew there was big perch in the Thames, good 3-pounders. But I never really bothered for them because I was, you know, fishing for carp. And it really started with some young kids. They were down at, you know, the spot that me and you we'll know where it is now, the tidal, down at Teddington. And
the hot spot.
Yeah, the couple of kids there, they caught, a couple of, I think they had 2 or 3 3-pounders. And I thought, what? Yeah, I put them in the paper, Angling Times it went, and I thought, and didn't say exactly where it was, but I knew straight away where it was. I mean, I know every inch of that.
Exactly, yeah.
I knew every inch of that river. I thought, oh, down there, eh? So I thought I'd have a go. So I went down there. First I caught, just had a few bream and stuff, just using feeder tactics. But after a while, I started getting a few of these 2-pound perch. It was great. And I think I had them up to about 213, 240, and I thought I might get a 3-pounder here if I stick to this. And sure enough, it wasn't. I think the first 3-pounder I got was 313. So it was
big 3, yeah.
It was a good. Yeah, it was a big one. You know, I couldn't believe it. When you first see a big perch like that, and it blow you away. You know. And I just got the bug for it. It was right on my doorstep. I could walk there.
It was unbelievable fishing. That never to be known again for us. But
it was. It's hard to. People wouldn't believe it now. They wouldn't believe it. I mean, I remember going out with. I took a bloke out and he had a boat, and I said, it was the last day of the season. I said, he had a rickety old boat, and he didn't do much fishing. I said, can you get this boat out? And we get up in the Weirpool, and there was quite a bit of water coming down, so we took a while to find them, and we got some little live baits, and we had some lobworms, and we finally got on them. We ended up getting 53 fish. I think I had 28 twos. It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
I think we had 28 over 2, 5 3-pounders, and this guy Paul, he'd never caught a 3-pound perch. He had 3 of them. He had the biggest fish as well. I think it was 3.7. What a day! And it just seemed to get better and better. You know, I remember I was telling Keith Arthur about some of the fish, and he said, "Oh yeah," and he said, "I said I'm going down." He said, "When are you going now?" So I'm going down tomorrow. I'll pop down and see you. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll take a keep net. And I never used to use a keep net. I still don't to this day, really. But I thought, I'll take a keep net down there. And Keith came down, and I had 5 3-pounders in the net when he got down there. Unbelievable.
It was unbelievable.
Fishing. And then, of course, I caught... My first 4-pounder never came from there at all. It came from...
Was it Twickenham?
Yeah, what happened was, because I'd fished it for carp for many years, I was trying to think of somewhere...
I remember it well.
No, I'll tell you what happened was...
I remember it well.
I caught a zander, my first zander, and then I had a few goes for him in the dark, and I caught a few more. Nothing big. And so I was trying to think of places where I'd seen like perch and little fish fry active. And I remember the place at Twickenham, a little bay there, where on the high tide, it was when I used to carp fish there by the little kids' wreck.
Yeah.
I always saw fry dashing out the water, and I thought, they must be perch down or so. So I went over there and caught some live baits. Actually, I got some live baits from the nearby River Crane, which is, I think it's still still legal, I think, because it's part of the Thames. Little gudgeons, and I went down there, and I thought I'd have a go down there for an hour at this place on the tide, then I go to Teddington for the zander. Well, I went down there and I caught a 4 pound perch. Couldn't believe it.
It's a great fish.
It was a
Great
fantastic fish. Yeah. I actually had a painting done on that fish because it was so special to me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I remember when I caught it, and I didn't go zander fishing. I caught the perch, and I went to the pub. And there was a friend of mine in the pub, and he said, "You look happy, John." I said, "Yeah, I've just had a 4 pound perch." He wasn't a fisherman. He said, "Well, I just won 275 grand in the lottery."
Get the beers in.
Let's have a drink. Yeah. He just got 5 in the bonus. Yeah.
Incredible, mate.
Drink killed him in the end.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I was in the perch fishers, and you meant to report every fish over £2. And Steve Burke said, because this was like maybe 2 seasons or 2 winters into it by then, and like you say, we were catching multiple 2s, and he said, "How many have you had?" And I said, "I honestly don't know."
No,
and he just thought I was taking the mickey, and then it wasn't until it got slightly more well known that he realised it was true. But I think that day, I remember the last day of the season so it would have been 2004, 2005, and I had that 412 on the very last day. But along that, I think I had a 310, and I think I had sort of like 15 2s and a 3 1/4 as well. And that was only in sort of 4 hours.
Yeah, it was unbelievable fishing.
So, I mean,
it did last for a while, though. It did last for a while, but, it got, the trouble is like anywhere, because people saw you catch them there in that spot because people on the bridge and all that. It was
inevitable, wasn't it?
It was inevitable that there were people, I mean, some big names turning up there.
They really did. It was like bloody Hawaii 5-0 in the end, wasn't it?
It was pretty sad in the end, really.
Yeah.
It was sad, but it was going to happen. You can't keep people away from 3 or 4 pound, particularly 4 pound perch.
Yeah.
They're rare fish.
Absolutely. The perch fishers, once they realised.
Yeah, there was lots.
I mean, they'll be down there fishing.
I remember going down there, and there was people in the dark. They were turning up in the dark to try and get what they thought was the hot spot.
And the boats coming up the river, man. I mean, there'd be like, that's why I mentioned the Hawaii 5-0. There'd be, the fronts would be out of the water. They'd be racing each other to get up there, wouldn't they? And their hearts were sick because there was only really, unless you had a boat, bank fishing, 4 or 5 spots. 2 really good ones.
When they got a bit pressurised, those perch. But once, if you've done it right, if you've done it the right way, like with the float gear, and got the chesties on, and use fine then, we was using 4 pound fluorocarbon hook links, and it really improved your bites.
Yeah.
And you held back on the float, whether it was with a worm or a little live bait. If you've done it right, you outscored the ledger rod. Most people will ledger
100%.
Oh, mate, it was.
But I remember you taught me how to fish that way with just no net, just grab them.
Yeah, you didn't need a landing net because they're so rough skinned. The landing net got in the way, and it was just No, I mean, I had them go through my legs. Big fish.
I had a bite there, like in front of my chest. It was literally there, like it was phenomenal, wasn't it? It was. It was such a good.
You rarely caught anything else but perch.
That's right. A couple of chub.
I hooked a barbel there once. I foul hooked it, and it came off. It wasn't a big barbel, but I did have a big chub there. Funny enough, that was a good brace. I had a 4 pound 2 perch and a 5.9 chub.
At the hot spot?
Yeah, both on worms. Yeah.
There weren't many there, were there? But yeah, we had a couple.
I didn't get chub. Didn't get many chub. I think I've had a couple of 5s on the tide. They don't do well in the tide for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Lots of little chub in there.
Yeah, it's true. I remember I had that 412. I thought that was a chub. It was only when its fin came out like that, and I realised it was.
They were like bream with stripes, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were that big. They were that big. I mean,
amazing. I remember getting hold of it, and it was like this, all the way in as well. Like, thinking, Christ, that's massive,
Yeah.
You come down, didn't you?
Yeah.
I remember you said that's 2 records in one season because I'd had that 38 common.
I remember getting a brace of 4s in really dirty water, which I always thought dirty water was no good for perch, the sight feeders. And this time I went down there. I was going to go to Oxford, chub fishing. I thought, no, it's too dirty for chub. And I had a load of maggots and worms that I thought, well, I might as well just go local. And I went down to not the hot spot, but another spot further down you know about. And I couldn't believe it. It was all dirty. It was. I thought, I'd looked at it the day before and it was okay. Came down this day, it was dirty brown. I thought, oh no. Oh well, I always catch bream in that spot, so I thought, never do me. At least I'm fishing, you know what I mean? Put a little feeder. Was it on the feeder? It was on the feeder, yeah. I just put it on the tip. And I think I got a 4-1, was it? I couldn't believe it. I thought I was going to get just bream. And I can't remember the exact weights. I think it was 4.2 and 4.10 I had a place.
Ridiculous. I mean,
in
it's
dirty
ridiculous.
water. And it gave me so much more confidence to fish in dirty water.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had a few braces of 4s. And
well, the good thing about that area you're talking about is that because it's the only fishable bit when it rained a lot, wasn't it?
it
And that
really
it really
was,
got you
yeah.
out of jail in that sense, you know.
And the red letter day was obviously the day I went down there. Again, I was going to go with Colin to Oxford. We were doing a bit of fishing at Clifton Hampton. And we'd called it off because, again, it was going to be, we didn't know if it was flooded up there. It didn't look too good. So I thought, I was just going to take a float rod and go down the bottom for a few hours. And I've got a bait dropper out, a lot of chopped maggots and worms. And I thought, I'll just have a bit of fun. And I'd put a float out, a couple of feet out from the bank. And I wasn't there long. And I missed a bite, that was it. And it was a typical perch. And bob, and missed it, and I put it back down straight away, had it again, and this fish went off like I thought, I've got a carp here, haven't I? 15-foot rod I was on, and it's gone upstream, and I thought, because I've caught carp there before, and this fish went, and I'm thinking, I've got a carp here, it's going to be half an hour now, and suddenly I've got the better of it, and then it came up, and this massive perch came up in the net, it went £5.2, thank you very much, and my camera, the batteries are gone. I didn't have did I have a digital one then? I think it was. I never had batteries were flat. I never had a phone with a camera on. Don't know if I had a phone. I did have a phone, yeah. Because I phoned Colin and I said, look, what are you doing? I said, I've got a 5.2. He said, you haven't? I said, look, my batteries. He said, I'll come down. I said, yeah, bring a camera, mate, because I've got to get a picture of it. He says, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, but shall I bring a rod?
Shall I bring a rod? And it wasn't a 2-man swim really, but,
no,
I said, yeah, come on, I'm over the moon, I don't care. So Colin turns up, we took the pictures, put the fish back, and we're fishing side by side. He caught 3 perch, all 4-pounders, Colin, right next to him. Floats 10 foot apart.
So yeah, £5 perch, major result, John. I mean, what a fish.
It was, it's a bit, and well, it's the biggest course fish I'm going to catch, I think.
You know, more get caught now, but back then, I mean, not from the well, you know, there's been clutches, hasn't there?
Yeah, not many 5s really.
No. And when we go back to those days, and I remember we were catching lots and lots of mint £1 fish, weren't we? Lots and lots of mint £2 fish, and then they were getting bigger, loads of. You'd have like say 4 or 5 3s, you might have 2 4s, even 3 4s.
4-pounders were mint. 4-pounders are like, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I mean they were like. Yeah,
we were thinking it was going to do a record, weren't we? And then they just disappeared. I remember getting there off the bank, you know, off the angler's bank, and where it's 10 foot, and there was just disco ball size balls of bait fish, weren't there? Where they were hounding them. I've never seen anything like that.
You only seem to have got that on that side of the river.
It was amazing, wasn't it? And somebody put a float with a worm in it right in the middle of the bait ball, and it just like, you know, and you're in.
I saw them, yeah. I've only twice, I think, in my life, I've seen big perch attacking shoals of fish. And once it was there, it was on the Teddington side of the river.
Yeah.
I was with Jim Page, Mushroom.
Right.
I was with him. And they were just steaming into these fish, like backed out the water. Never seen nothing like it.
Yeah.
Fantastic to watch.
Yeah.
And I did see it at Barn Elms Reservoir one day there, and the perch were. There weren't that many perch in there, big perch, but they were doing it there. They were holding the fish into a corner and attacking them.
Amazing.
Like orcas they were, you know, just steaming in.
Brilliant.
Really great to watch.
Yeah.
Quite a rare event, I think, because I've only ever seen it twice like that.
I think for whatever reasons, the planets aligned for that particular area, for those particular winters, and it was perfect, wasn't it? And I remember we talked for ages about why those fish went, because And you're thinking, was it a pollution thing? Did
No,
the bait
I don't
fish go? And in the end, it was just like not all of those fish, no matter how good condition they were ever destined to become big ones, were they? Like all fish.
Yeah, and I don't know perch. I mean, I think they can live to about 15 years. We don't really know how old they were. They were in beautiful condition, but they might still have been very old fish. Some of them,
definitely.
You know?
And I know a couple of my friends have been catching a few further down, and then and the upper reaches round.
Oh yeah,
sort of Marlow as well, you know. And
so
there's definitely pockets.
Big perch all through the Thames, I think.
Yeah.
A friend of mine caught some threes other year at Sunbury, I think it was. You know, if there's 3 pounders there should be 4 pounders, which is obviously.
Yeah, that's right. I remember catching a few zander by accident on paternostered live baits, fishing for perch, and then of course you had a good one, didn't you, on the float?
I was perch fishing. I was perch fishing that day when I had it. I had it in the middle of the day when you least expect sand. It was a sunny day. I just sent the pin reel and I was trotting down a little live bait and I hooked this fish. There was an old guy, Jeff, beneath me, and he said he saw the fish. He said, "Take it easy, got a big pike." So I'm playing this fish very gently, thinking I've got a big pike. I don't want to bite me off. And after about 10 minutes, this great big zander comes up in front of me and 13 pound odd it was.
Mega fish again, mate.
Lovely fish, But now it's doing big zander regular.
It is. I know our mutual friend, Mr. Hearn, lost a very good fish there.
Well, a guy had one in front of me a couple of years ago. I was feeder fishing for bream and a guy had a 15 pounder next to me. We didn't weigh it, but it looked 50, he wouldn't weigh it. And he said he'd caught even bigger ones than that.
Yeah.
I
know Colin Brandon said that he'd got talking, might be the same guy. He reckoned he'd had a 20 pounder, up Kingston way.
Yeah, I've actually got a picture of this fish. The guy said it was over the British record. Well, no, he again, did he say it was 11 kilos? I can't remember now, but I said, that's over the British record, I think. I didn't know what the British record was. And he went, I'm not worried about records.
Yeah.
He caught a 15 pounder next to me one day. And I saw the fish and he didn't even weigh it. He said, he measured it. It was 85 centimetres. He went, yeah, that's okay.
Phenomenal.
It was a big fish, I tell you. Biggest zander I've ever seen.
A lot of potential. I mean, the other thing I wanted to talk about was a lot of the characters that we've come across on that river over the years. I mean, when we were younger, it didn't really bother us. I mean, I don't know, I'd feel a bit uneasy about fishing down there like I used to now, at night and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, most of them were just...
but a lot of characters, weren't there then?
Well, there still is, really.
Well, you still got the homeless guy's still there after 20
Well,
odd
the
years.
River Thames, I think it's like a lot of rivers, especially if they run, the urban rivers, they attract nutcases, basically. If they're going to go for a walk, a bit like me and you, we spent all that. They probably think we're nuts sitting there staring at a bloody rod all day. So fair enough. But I've seen some...
Choo-choo, mate. Remember him?
The train, yeah.
Train.
A guy thought it was a steam train. He was unbelievable. I remember taking a friend down there years ago and telling him, and he didn't quite believe it. And as it happens, it was the first time this guy had come down. He wasn't fishing, he'd come down to sit with me. And within 10 minutes, I heard him coming. Heard the old hooter going.
4:30 to Q.
He knocked a woman over one day because there was 2 old girls on the path, and it was their fault, really, because they were on the track. They were on his track, basically. And they gave him plenty of warning, but he pushed one over. He shouldn't have done. But he just went steam. He was like an athlete. He made all the sounds of a steam train, And he was around. Yeah, I didn't realise till years later that he actually lived near me, because a friend of mine knew him. And when I look back, I remember one day the river was flooded, and I see him walking along the road from Richmond. And I said to my mate Rob, I said, "That's the train." And so I said, turn the car around. He went down this alleyway and he let off steam when I shouted out. Oi, train. He went steaming down the road and he disappeared. I said to my mate, Rob, where did he go? And he ended up, I found out years later, he lived in one of the houses there. And he had a good job. He worked at some university, or St Mary's University.
Really?
Quickly we worked there.
I remember down there the one day and I was fishing on the bridges and I looked up and there was just someone on the Chertsey Road with an anorak done up tight as you could get it, with a pair of little glasses on, just staring at me. And I sat there for about 20 minutes. It started getting a bit uneasy,
Oh, yeah.
thinking, Christ, like, you know, what's going on? Then he started coming down. So, oh God, here we go. Who's this one?
Yeah.
And it was Matt Beddoes, wasn't it, the buggers? Remember? And he wound me up. He didn't tell me he was coming.
Okay.
And he just stood up there and stared at me for half an hour.
Well, I had a guy turned up behind me and had this great big case, looked like a gun case. And he was staring at me and he didn't say a word. He pacing up and down. And I sort of kept my eye on him. I don't like this guy. And suddenly he sat on the floor under but you know the spot actually, he's under the bridge. He's under the bridge in Twickenham there. And he sat under there and I thought, what's it? You know, there's all people who have a pee there and everything, it's horrible. And he sat under there and I thought, has he got a gun in his case or something? And I was trying to obviously watch me rod. And suddenly he's pulled out this great big saxophone, starts playing it. You know, and because it's under the bridge, it was 10 times as loud.
Loud as hell.
And I thought, what's he doing here? You know, another guy in the same area turned up. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. It's dressed up as a Buddhist monk. He's got, what did he have? A ferret. He's got a ferret on the lead. He starts giving me all these pamphlets about Buddhism. Where's he? And a guy with the clown's outfit. He's got all the gear, the boots, the nose, the lot, the big wig. Obviously come from a party about 4 a.m. Yeah, chatting to me, you know.
Get the lot out, yeah.
Great big boots he had on, walking down the river like this.
I saw someone playing the bagpipes down there once. And
bagpipes.
Big crowd, like, he went, any requests? And this player went, yeah, shut the fuck up. We had a lot there, didn't we?
People jumping off the bridge and swimming at
night
and all that.
I mean, Rich McDonald used to do that.
Did he?
We've had burning bins going in, dead bodies. Where was that last body you found? Where was that?
I've seen a few over the years.
10 knots, weren't it?
Yeah, I've seen a few over the years. It's hang on. 2 on the tidal, 2 on the non-tidal. 2 on the non-tidal, exactly the same spot. Yeah, that's quite scary actually. Yeah. Mate. You wouldn't want to see that. It's it's horrible.
Top of someone's head, was it?
Who?
Was it top of someone's head you'd seen or something?
Yeah, there was a bit. Yeah, that was on the Kingston stretch. There was a bit there, but all the flotsam used to get caught up. And I always looked there for floats. Yeah, always think a few floats, you know. This was years ago when everyone used floats. No one uses them no more today. And I'm looking around, I looked down at me, and I thought it was a dead bird. I thought it was just a dead bird, a duck or something. And it turned out it was a bloke's hair. And I'd looked at it once, and I was looking around again, and then suddenly I saw his elbow sticking up. It was quite shallow there, and he was on his knee. It turned out he was on his knee, and his head was. And it frightened the life out of me, mate.
Yeah, it will do.
Frightened the life out of me, and I went up to the boatyard and I told them. They rang the police, and I said, "Look, I'm not going to hang around." So I went, walked into Kingston, and I came back. I didn't want to look really, but they were there. The van was there, and it was a young guy. All he had on was a pair of jeans. They put him into. Turned out he'd just been in for a swim.
Yeah,
had a few beers.
So
whatever.
Common. You know, I mean, we living where we live. I mean, we probably get police helicopters at least once every 6 months.
But that same stretch, I went down there when I was carping. This was, just thought of this one. I just go down there about 4:30 in the summer, and put a bit of bait in the night before, hemp right on the edge. Go down about 4:30 and I'd fished about 7:30, 8, and people started coming on. To get the carp right on the edge, some good ones as well. On the float, a lot of them. I had a brace of 20-pounders one morning, 25, 23, great big, massive commons. Got down there one morning, and it wasn't a swim. It was just, he didn't make a swim. He just anywhere like through the grass. I got there one morning, there's a copper standing there, about 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm thinking, I don't know. So I got out of the car, or the cab. I had the cab then. I got out of the cab, and I said to the cop, "Good morning." He went, "Morning, she's not having a good one, is she?" I said, "What?" And she goes, "There's a woman dead on the bank. He's standing over her."
Jesus.
An old lady. She was just lying. The bank there's very narrow. It's about 6 foot of vegetation. He's standing there, waiting for there was more police to turn up. Someone reported, obviously, he's there. But it was just him, and he was just standing there. And he said, "Oh, she's not having a good day, is she?" I went, "Oh." blimey, I didn't want to look, you know. She
Takes you back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I remember the last time we saw one, it was Christmas morning, and we just went for a walk into Richmond with the dog, you know, and some young lad jumped off the lock, and they got him out at Thistleworth Marina. But it happens so frequent down there these days. But that was a suicide, unfortunately, you know.
Yeah, I saw one at Chiswick. Yeah, Chiswick. I think it was the last one I saw, actually. I wasn't fishing. I was in a pub, in a bar there. And someone said, because the river goes right out there, doesn't it? Guy said, there's a body out there on the mud. I said, what? And you could see it, although it was about 25 yards out. And so people are going, wow, we have people in the bar going, and someone went out and put a blanket over it, over the body. But 2 hours later, it's still there.
No way.
So no one had come. I thought, you know, what a way to end your life. I don't know what's happened here. Someone's brother, someone's son in it, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it might have been a woman, I don't know.
We were literally seeing everything. There's everything on that river, right? I mean, everything. I mean, like the seals thing's a big thing now, isn't it? There's resident seals.
Well, I've been fishing the river recently a few times. Both the tidal and the big tidal as well. And I've not seen a sign of them lately. I've not seen any.
Seen quite a few down at the half lock. Didn't see the whale that came up. Was it a pilot whale? Come up the other year. Mullet though, you see.
Oh, I tell you, I had a porpoise one morning, and it was a ham. It was a ham. Carp. I went down there. I wasn't fishing. I was looking around as usual, and a massive splash. And I thought someone jumped in. So I looked for what the hell was that? Obviously, I know it was bits, and it was sort of I couldn't see properly because behind the trees it was. There's no one about. I thought it can't be someone throwing their dog at us. And it's just come leaping out of the water in front of me. It's fantastic. And it went up towards Teddington. So I drove to Teddington. And when I got up there, all the geese were going mad. And I've got not a very good picture of it, but it come downstream.
Amazing.
And I think that might be the second one I've ever seen.
There was a few dolphins recently at Richmond. It was all in the news and things.
Really?
And
yeah.
It could have been porpoises. I didn't see them.
Yeah, this thing was about 6 foot long.
Yeah, right.
But
what was I going to say now? I mean, a whole lot of mullet. I've seen a mullet up there, haven't we? Quite a few times. Sea trout are still running. I mean, that's the amazing thing about that river.
I've caught 5 recently.
I know. There you go. I mean, the ability for it to
every trip I've been on the tidal, I've caught sea trout.
You think about, the big pollution when I had that common, which was 1 million. Was it 1 million tons that time? 2004.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And it's been ongoing, hasn't it? They built the super sewer, which isn't operational yet. But when you think about what goes into that river, especially with all the floods we've had this winter, and yet it's still clean enough for sea trout to run. It's amazing.
It's tap clear. It's tap clear at the moment. Yeah, I've been after the roach, but I've not had only a couple of little tiny roach, but all I've had is trout. And the roach are another fish. They're the fish that's
the enigma.
They really are top of my list now.
Hardest fish I've ever fished for, without question.
It's been a real challenge trying to get a 2-pounder out of there.
Yeah, you've had a few, haven't you?
7 now, yeah. Had 7. Yeah, I caught 3 one year, but it's been hard work trying to. I mean,
it's phenomenal, mate.
1.5 pound ones are rare, but yeah, I got my biggest one last year, 2.8.
Beautiful. I mean, they're pristine as well, aren't they?
Like chalk stream roach.
Yeah, phenomenal.
I couldn't believe it. I'd fished 2 swims that morning, and I'd moved. I'd not had a bite, and I moved. I was nearly going to go home, and I thought, I don't know. And I just moved about a couple of 100 yards downstream, plonked out to feed it, and I must have landed right on a group of them because immediately I got a bite. And some of these roach bites, they're unmissable, but you miss them.
Yeah,
it's very frustrating. And I missed this bite, and I thought, oh God, no, am I going to get another bite? Put it out again. Obviously, it was a group of them there. Bang, £1.15. Beautiful fish. Made my day. I thought, unbelievable. Quick picture on the mat, put it back, cast out again, 2.8. That's it. I'm going to the pub. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean,
incredible, John.
It's a PB roach for me.
That's the thing. I mean, it's you
never know. I mean, it was such a
yes. We fish a lot of places, don't we? And a lot of pits and all the rest of it. A lot of my PBs are still out of the river.
Yeah,
still my biggest chub, still my biggest farm.
Those roach, they get little groups to those big ones, and it's a big river. You really got to work hard to try and find them.
Definitely.
But there was one day when I caught 4 roach for £6.12. I just got on them. I got on them. You know, I'd fished, that day I'd fished all, it was a long day for me. I fished about 8 hours. And I'd had 2 different swims and I'd had nothing. And then I got a bream and I thought, well, at least I haven't blanked. And then these roaches just turned up, bang, bang, bang. Yeah, I think it was 4 roaches, 6 12. 114, I think, was the biggest. They were all big, all over £1.5 sort of thing, you know.
Fantastic.
Proper big handfuls.
Red letter day, I love that handful, yeah. That's the thing, isn't it?
Blimey, they really do it for me, big roach.
Is there any fish that you've never caught that you'd like to catch, apart from the Marcia we talked about earlier? But like, I was talking to Alan Stagg about
Thames
this
burbot, probably.
Yeah.
No, I don't know really.
Big eel, big, real big tench maybe or something.
A big rudd.
Big rudd, yeah.
Big rudd would do it for me. I've never.
I'll taste that pit, mate.
Yeah, they would. That would. I love rudd.
Well, one came up from Mixer there. I said to Matt, "See that comedy?" He went, "That was a rudd." I'm like, "You're joking."
Yeah, I've never caught a big rudd.
4+.
I caught one from the River Test. Funny enough.
That's weird, isn't it? Unusual.
I caught one from the Test. 1.9 it was. Yeah, I was going to catch a 14-pound brownie out there. I'm trying.
Down at Dave's.
Yeah.
Which makes Dave Stewart.
Still the record for his stretch.
Yeah, there you go.
And if it had come off, I'd have said it was a salmon. I couldn't believe how big the trout was. You know, it's 14 pounds.
Yeah, some amazing fish in there, isn't there, in this little stretch of
Yeah, I've had roached 2 out of there as well, but I've only had the one. There was one day I got 9 over £1.5.
Brilliant.
From there. I've only got the 1 2. It was 2 exactly, and I've had a few. I've had a couple of 113, 114s.
£2 perch best I had down there. I think it was 2.4 from that deep.
Yeah,
I don't think he's got that bit anymore.
Dave himself caught a 4-pounder out of there.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Ago. He scorned me last time I went because I put the feeder on.
Oh,
just
he doesn't like
he
that.
Didn't like that.
He doesn't like the feeder. He caught me.
Like
he caught me. He caught me.
Couldn't resist it.
There's a swim there where he's got his wife's ashes, and I was fish case. They call it case.
Hey, yeah.
And he caught me. It's awkward to trot it actually. There was a real horrible wind. And I've been trotting all day, but he just happened to come out when I put a feet. And he came around the bend and he looked at me. He said, I can't believe what I'm seeing. He said, not only is he tip fishing, he's using one of those, he's talking to Kay, and Kay's ashes, he's talking to the grave saying, what are those funny reels? Not centre pin, Kay. Well, he's not using a centre pin. Is it a lifetime ban? Yeah. And we had to laugh about it. Yeah, I was feeder fishing. Didn't often do it there, but
yeah.
There were occasions where I did. In fact, when I caught a 2-pound roach from there, the only one I've caught, that was on the feeder. He doesn't know that. It was on the feeder.
Good angling. So is there anything in the future, like what's the future hold, John? I mean, I know I came and photographed an amazing common for you the other week at £35 on bread.
Yeah, on bread, yeah.
Good angling.
Yeah, I did. That was...
You know, whilst others were blanking away. But, you know, that was a classic example of, well, good angling and bad angling on their part. I couldn't believe there was no one on that wind. No. And there you go, 1 rod, 3 slices of bread.
I had 3 bites as well. I lost one. I had a 26 and then a 35. Biggest, my UK PB common, actually.
Mate, mega fish as well. Black, wasn't it? Beautiful.
I don't catch many 30-pound carp. I spent all the years on the Thames.
Well, that's why, isn't it? There's not many in there.
Exactly. I wasn't fishing for 30 pounds. I was carp fishing.
Can't you?
I was carp fishing.
Yeah.
You know. But what we forgot to mention maybe was my very, very first River Thames carp. Very, very first one was a 25-pounder on a floating bait.
That was the islands, right?
Yeah. By luck, I was still fishing Stockley Road Pit. The Thames was brand new to me, carp fishing. I'd gone out in a boat. My mate Mike had a boat, went out with him. And it was a red hot day. And this was Phil Thompson pointing out this spot on an island. So we went out there. I mean, red hot. It was a Sunday, I think. People, the river banks were full of people shouting, hollering. And there was some overhanging trees. And all of a sudden, this carp turned up. You know, I couldn't believe I've seen carp on the surface in the tidal river. But there was a little tiny bit of flow, and they were underneath the trees, you know. There was about half a dozen small advertised
You got some photos of them, haven't you? On the top.
Yeah, I have. And suddenly this monster turned up. It's just under the... And I had some floating cake, you know. It's been in the bag for ages, all mouldy. That's all I had. So I was just flicking bits in, and suddenly these carp started taking it. I couldn't believe it. Then you get a little bit of flow, and all the bait would get washed away. And I'm thinking, I was so frustrated. But the big one came right in the edge. It came right in. It was looking for the cake. It was like,
Yeah.
And that's it certainly did have a cake. I had a massive mouth on it, and it was 3 or 4 times the size of anything else there. And I said to my mate Mike, I said, if I'm going to get anything, it's going to be this one. And I remember putting the bait down, and I thought, where is it? Where is it? And it suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and it's come up, and the bait was on its head, and it's looking like this. You can smell it, and it's going. And then I just went dink, and just dropped it straight in its cake hole, and bang. And I just held on to it because I had snags all around. There's trees, sunken trees.
Yeah, I know those islands.
And I just held on to it, and it weren't a fighting fish. You know, it just wallowed about. It didn't know what had gone on.
Yeah.
Never seen it before. In the net, there was a right old warrior, and it was 25-12, and it took me about 10, 12 years to beat it on the river. And when I got the next one, it was 25, 14 years later, one with no pelvic fins, which became quite a famous fish.
Yeah.
That was caught to over 30 pound up and down. That one with no pelvics was caught up as far as Chertsey, I think. So
I always call it a Richie Blackmore fish because when that photo of you with it, you look like Richie Blackmore.
Yeah, I know.
That's going
terrible.
in. Find that picture.
Yeah, I've got to blow it. Got to enlarge it. I couldn't believe it, you know.
Mega, mate, yeah.
First fish from the river. But the river, you know, it still does it for me now. I remember coming back from Canada once, and I'd caught a load of 20 pounders. I went out for 3 weeks, stayed with some friends. I had 60 or 70 20 pounders, I think, and a few 30s, nearly all on the float. I came back. I couldn't wait to get on the river. I went down the river and I caught an 8 pound common, and I was over the moon.
Easy go.
And that's what it does for me.
And that's the Thames, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in my blood, mate. And I'll be fishing it, you know, till the end, you know.
Yeah.
Until I can't walk. That won't be long.
I'll probably join you, I hope.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, John Gard, fantastic.
I have a little dabble for chub upriver because we ain't got the big chub. Well, I say we ain't got the big chub. There are some not far upstream. There's some big ones been coming out. So, but I'm not one to sit there day and night, mate. I like to go for 4 or 5, 6 hours. I can't.
It's concentrated though, isn't it? That's what I always find, and that's why I like the fully tidal because you've only got that. You've got no choice. There is no last cast.
No,
it is what it is.
And I mainly fish the river. Most of my fishing, 99% is one rod.
Yeah.
One rod. So I fish. I like to fish. I even fish for carp like that, as you know.
Yeah.
I had a 35 pounder the other week. Lucky by luck. Well, not by luck. It was good angling.
By luck, it was good angling.
But it was one rod.
But look, whatever picked it up. But you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Good
But, it was.
I was out the dog, wasn't I? Because I've had a 26. I've lost one. The next thing, and I've got loads of missed calls because I was on the phone to Richie or whatever for ages, and he said I've got a bloody 35 pound common. Are you joking? I'll come and photograph.
I think it's the biggest common in the lake.
It is the big. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mega fish though.
It was a lovely fish. Yeah.
So what's the future hold then? Just keep enjoying your fishing.
Just keep enjoying it, mate. Keep enjoying it.
One thing we didn't talk about, which was the birding, the nature. I mean, if I see a plant,
I mean, I still go birding a lot. I was supposed to go this morning down to Sussex to see some honey buzzers, but it got called off because of the weather. I still do a lot of that, really. Yeah, watching.
If I'm offered an out and I see something, don't I, and I photograph it and I'll do a plant or whatever, and I say, John, what's that? And it will come back. It's that.
Everything nature, really. I'm into butterflies. I'm into a lot of stuff. You know, I've always nearly all my holidays are nature based.
Saw my first lizards, didn't I? Took me to see lizards. I hadn't seen before.
I've taken many people watching adders and stuff like that.
Brilliant.
I love it. I love it all.
It's all part of it.
It's all part of it. So I never blank when I'm fishing because I don't
exactly.
Plenty of time I don't catch, but I don't blank. I was seeing things that I want to see. You know.
There's always that beer in the fridge at the end of the day as well, John. Like
Yeah, we know that, don't we? Yeah. Only one though.
Only one, yeah. Times 4 or 5, maybe 6.
But yeah, lots of places I'd still like to go. I've always had a bit of a love for the west coast of Scotland, but not really for fishing, but for walking and stuff.
That's a nice grayling there was one, isn't you, out there?
Oh, blimey, yeah. That was another thing. Yeah, the Annan, yeah, the Annan. I didn't get 3, but I had some wonderful fishing up there.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, I was lucky. He was on a private estate, and my mate had the cottage there. He's dead now, Dave. But, mate, wonderful fishing up there. It was.
Yeah.
If you got it right.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes because all those rivers are spate rivers, if you get it was all flowing up and coloured, it was useless. But I'd go off birding then. I'd go down to the Solway and stuff, so it was never a bad trip. But there was one trip I had 38 fish in one day, which is unheard of, really.
Amazing.
Trotting maggots, you know.
Yeah. One of the kids I work with actually they've got a family house on the Annan on that same stretch, believe it or not. So I said, we'll get us up there. But
I'll tell you what, you know, but people would get put off because they think, Scotland. But from London, it's about 5.5 hours. You get the traffic wrong, you take that, you go to Oxford. I remember I was taking an hour to get from Richmond to Kew Bridge. So it's not that bad. Once you get to the motorway, it's not too bad.
It. It's a mindset, isn't it? Definitely.
It's not that bad. Honestly, I've done the Annan a few times, and 5.5 hours is to do it in.
Yeah, brilliant.
And
nice one, mate. We're going to have to wrap it in there, I reckon.
We'll probably
have to come back for another go at this, but it's been brilliant to talk to you.
Yeah,
and it's great
thanks.
to get all these memories back as well, and
a
few things I've forgotten about over the years as well. But thanks very much. And,
no problem.
John Gard.
Yeah, thank you.